You are listening to the Awcast, the most awesome wrestling podcast you've listened to in the past few seconds. Hello, my awesome friends, and welcome to Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, or as I like to call it, the Awcast. I'm Brant, and like you, I'm a wrestling fan. So let's talk about some wrestling. And let's move on to Wrestlemania Saturday, Night One of this most stupendous two-night WrestleMania in history, or however they describe it. So, before I get into that, again, I want to remind you to go like, share, and subscribe to the Allcast, at the Allcast across social media, allpodcast.com. And if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that here. You will get a free fan AEW comic by creator Todd Black just for signing up and getting on that mailing list. And it's a really cool comic if you are an AEW fan. And so check that out. And now, getting into WrestleMania Saturday, night one of WrestleMania. The big main event of this one was, of course, the Stone Cold Kevin Owens thing. We'll circle back to that. I do want to send thoughts out to Rick Boogs, who got hurt in his match. I forget the exact technical term. I think it was a quadricep patella tear. And so basically his quadricep or his thigh muscle tore off of his kneecap, I think is what happened. So similar to what Triple H, Kevin Nash, Vince McMahon have all suffered, I think. I don't know if it's quite as severe as theirs or not. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but well wishes to a speedy recovery for Mr. Boogs there. And in that match, Usos retained their SmackDown tag titles, so kudos to them. A great weekend for the Bloodline, for sure, except for, of course, Solo, who they don't reference as an Uso or part of the Bloodline. He was in that ladder match on NXT Stand and Deliver, but he was really good in that too, and I can't wait to see him come up to the main roster and join his brothers and his cousin in the Bloodline. I think that would be really cool. I think that's the next evolution for him, for his character. We'll see. I know he tweeted out stuff like got to make some changes or something. Who knows what those changes might be? Let's watch SmackDown this week and see if maybe they fast track him. Who knows? You never know, right? But anyway, let's get back to WrestleMania. I want to address this. So The Miz and Logan Paul fighting the Mysterios, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on Twitter, social media about Logan Paul. Now, I'm not a Logan Paul fan. I think some of the things that dude has done are downright despicable and disgusting. But that's neither here nor there. That's my personal opinion. But what I will say is that Logan Paul has taken his time to learn the craft of professional wrestling. And I assume ever since he started showing up that he's been training, he's been, honing his skills to be able to put up a good showing on WrestleMania, much akin to like Bad Bunny or even Snooki several years back had a match and had a great showing. Maria Menounos, different celebrities that have come in. Some don't put all that work in and it shows, but some do. And when they do, it really shows. And I think Logan Paul showed some skill here, showed some ring acumen, if you will. Now, I know there's some talk about him no-selling here and there, and I'm going to defend the guy, honestly, because I think that when you're new in this and you're green, that you don't always have that where you feel you don't always realize that you're not exaggerating enough, you're not showing enough, you're not selling enough. In the moment, I think you're in your head maybe a little bit, trying to make sure you know what you're doing next and all of that. And I don't think it was intentional no-selling on his part. I really don't. I think he was trying his best. I think he tried to sell the skull-crushing finale at the end from The Miz, and he was like holding his head and stuff, and he didn't push it over the top like he should have. He should have been out, right? And but I think that you can chalk that up to inexperience. I don't think that was arrogance. I don't think you can attribute that to what you feel personally about Mr. Paul. I think that was just inexperience, plain and simple. So, I thought it was a really good showing from Logan Paul. And all four of these guys put on a solid match. As good of a match with a celebrity coming in, learning the ropes as you can expect, maybe even better than you can expect, honestly. So I will give credit where credit's due. Logan Paul impressed me a little bit in this match. But I'm very curious to see why Miz turned on him. I don't understand the direction of that, especially if Miz is still a heel, unless they're trying to make Logan Paul a face, which kind of makes sense considering the trepidation between the two when Miz was trashing Cleveland. Interesting direction to go with that, considering the public opinion of the Paul brothers. So we'll see where that goes. Maybe they'll address it on Monday Night Raw. Maybe not. We'll talk about that later. But so going on from that, we had one of the best matches on the card, which was Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair pulling all the stops. Apparently, Bianca got a black eye from this. I did not notice this happening in the match, but obviously on Raw, her eye is messed up. But she got her redemption. She got justice for that 26-second loss at SummerSlam and took it to the man, as she was once known. But both of these women pulled out all the stops. Becky Lynch hit the manhandle, I think, at one point. The KOD was attempted several times. Once she finally nailed her with it, it was over. These two are two of the best in the business right now. I can't say enough good things about Bianca Belair. She has impressed me so much. She's so athletic. She's charming. She's got that personality. On the mic, she's fire. Even on NXT, when she would come out and when there was that whole thing with Rhea and Charlotte, and they were kind of pushing her to the side, she wouldn't accept that, and that's kind of like her whole personality. She's not going to take the corner, right? You don't put Bianca in a corner. She's going to stand out there in front, show out and show off, and I love it. And now she is your Raw Women's Champion, well deserved, and hats off to her. And incredible weekend for Bianca Belair. We'll compare that to the other women's match, which was the SmackDown Women's title, which was Charlotte and Ronda Rousey, which was the penultimate match of the evening. It was better than I expected it to be, honestly. Ronda Rousey, I think, is still trying to find her footing in a WWE ring. She's learning. She's getting more skilled. She needs to kind of slow down and I'm critiquing, I'm armchair quarterbacking here, as it were. I've never been in a wrestling ring. I can't speak to that. She is a professional fighter. She knows better than I do. But I, just as a spectator, I will say that sometimes if she could slow down and, just feel the moment a little bit, that it would engage the crowd a little bit more. I think that's one problem when you go out there and you're super realistic with your fighting. Sometimes it's easy to miss it in a wrestling ring because we're used to things slowed down and exaggerated, right? And sometimes with her repertoire, it comes across like that. It comes across so fast and so rapid that you don't really know what happened. And so just slow down and enjoy the moment. Maybe some of it was nerves. It was WrestleMania. It was a world title match. But all in all, it was a pretty good match. Bianca and Becky a little above it, but it is what it is. The outcome was surprising. I thought Ronda was going to take it. This is going to continue the program building from here on, and that's cool. We'll see what happens next for Charlotte, and if Ronda's still in that title picture or if she's taking a break. I don't know what her plans are. I haven't read and found out if she's sticking around for a while or if she's gone. But we'll see what happens come SmackDown. So rolling it back to the match of the night, in my opinion, was Seth Rollins versus a mystery opponent of Mr. McMahon's choosing, which rumors across the internet were all pretty much dead on, and everybody knew who it was going to be. They were chanting his name way before he came out. But it was still when that music did hit, it hit different because I don't think anybody expected it to be the AEW music, right? Because that song is a direct dig at the McMahons, right? Wrestling has more than one royal family is how it starts off, right? And when that hit and you hear that quote and then the lyrics of the song and he rises up from the stage like his whole entrance from AEW, his whole persona, they announce him as the American Nightmare. They even use the inflection of the announcing that they did in AEW, the American Nightmare, that whole thing. It was surreal. And it was like Corey Graves, I think it was, said it best that it hasn't sunk in fully. As if you're watching the match, you're halfway through this match, it hasn't sunk in fully that Cody Rhodes is wrestling at WrestleMania in a WWE ring. It doesn't feel real. And it was just this amazing moment. And Cody was better than he had ever been in the WWE. And he was fantastic. I don't care. You can be haters. I've always been a Cody fan. I've always thought Cody had the potential to be a top level star. His broken mirror, whatever that gimmick was called, I thought that was phenomenal. Everything you gave him, he turned into gold. He had this little dig at Stardust through the match. He did the cartwheel and the star thing, poking fun at his former gimmicks and all that stuff. I think he's a top tier talent, and I think he's fantastic in the ring. There was an interview that he did where he truly believes he is the best wrestler bell to bell. I don't know that that's the case, and there are a lot of great wrestlers and great entertainers, great overall performers, but I think he's definitely in that conversation, right? And I think he showed it here. He pulled out every single thing in his repertoire, and they also did the finish like he had been doing in AEW before he left. The hitting 3 crossroads and just like cementing that win, like definitive win over Seth freaking Rollins. And Seth freaking Rollins is one of the absolute best in the business. But these two stole the show. This was a fantastic match. This was a fantastic first showing for Cody Rhodes in his return to WWE. It was on the grandest stage of them all, as they say, and it was worthy of it, in my opinion. So, closing out the show, we, of course, had the KO show, the WrestleMania version of the KO show, Kevin Owens with Stone Cold Steve Austin coming on the show. And lo and behold, Kevin Owens wants a no-holds-barred fight with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And for the first time in 19 years, Stone Cold Steve Austin is wrestling a match. Now, when I first heard it was no-holds-barred, I'm thinking, okay, this makes sense, right? If Stone Cold is going to do a match, it's going to be like Sting, right? When Sting comes back and he does a match, it's usually no disqualification, hardcore, whatever you want to call it, because you don't have to take a whole lot of bumps with that. It's usually just a bunch of walking around, hitting each other with things, maybe a couple of clotheslines, body slams, a couple of bumps here and there. But Sting decides, to throw himself off a thing through 4 tables or whatever. Okay. These guys are crazy. But yeah, so I envision that. They talked about Steve's knees and his neck and his back, and he hasn't wrestled in 19 years. And Stone Cold talks about how his first match was in Dallas. He lost his last match in WWE 19 years ago. And how fitting it would be to have his last match in Dallas. So this match is happening. And it's just like, okay, Cody Rhodes is back. Stone Cold is wrestling at WrestleMania. What in the world is going on this year? This is just insane, right? So that's what happened. They had a knockdown, drag-out fight, but it wasn't just walking around and punching and kicking each other. Yes, it started like that. Yes, there was that. Yes, there was hitting each other with objects and that kind of thing, driving Kevin Owens up the ramp on the ATV, that all that good stuff. But Stone Cold took bumps. He took 2 suplexes outside the ring, and that's a pretty big bump. I mean, it's a protected bump because Kevin's controlling the momentum, and you're a little protected on the landing, but still a pretty hard bump for a dude that hasn't wrestled for 19 years, that's over 50, and that has shot knees, back, and neck, right? So it was insane. And so Stone Cold closed out the show after winning, almost getting beat with a stunner, which was just wow. Okay, they went there. And but yeah, Stone Cold pulled out the win, and drank a bunch of beers to close out night one of WrestleMania. So it was a really stacked card. I thought this was when you stack up all the matches versus each other from night one and night two, I think this was probably the stronger night. But there were a lot of good things that happened on night two as well.
Hey, do you like podcasts? Do you like comic books? Do you like podcasts about comic books? Then you should go check out Comic Book Weekly, Comic Frontline's podcast where we share our top 5 comics of the week, talk about the latest news in the comic industry, interact live with our viewers each and every Tuesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Check us out at youtube.com/comicfrontline or search for Comic Book Weekly on YouTube. Hey, would you like to get a free comic book based on All Elite Wrestling? And in the process, get more updates about what's coming from the Allcast? You can do so by going to subscribepage.com/freeAEWcomic, and just by signing up for the Allcast newsletter, you'll get a free fan comic from comic creator Todd Black. Check it out at subscribepage.com/freeAEWcomic today.
Hopefully you enjoyed this episode of the Allcast. You can follow social media at the Allcast across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for updates on that, or you can check out allpodcast.com, which currently will take you straight to this YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit that notification bell as well. So with that said, until next time, keep watching wrestling. Stay awesome.